Let's quickly move on to the second conversation point, and the second battleground is the political battleground around the farm laws and the farm protests. Now, before we get into the conversation, let's quickly bring you an update on what all have we seen today as far as the political battleground is concerned. The farm laws and the farmers' protests resonated yet again in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. And by the end of it, because of the ruckus that was created, both houses were adjourned for the next day, but quite amount of conversation and sloganeering and ruckus did take place. But outside the parliament, while this was happening inside the parliament, outside the parliament, we had MPs who marched to the Ghazipur protest site. So we actually had 15 MPs, members of parliament from the opposition, who decided to go and meet the farmers, and they marched to the Ghazipur site. This was roughly 15 MPs from 8 different political parties. 8 political parties today staged a protest outside the parliament and then walked down. Now, after this, we actually saw, on the other hand, Priyanka Gandhi, who went ahead and met the deceased of a farmer's kin in Rampur. So that was Priyanka Gandhi there in Rampur. A lot of attention and noise got created around this visit as well. A man who died during the protest. She went and met their kin. And of course, on the last point, what we saw today was the Delhi government withdrawing buses, some 360 buses that had been given to the Delhi police to ferry them while they're on duty. So the cops who've been brought in for the farmers' protest, the Delhi government said, we're not going to give you these buses, we are withdrawing these buses. This is the level of politics which is happening in our country right now, which is why I want to discuss this. And as we do that, let me say good evening to Vinay Tiwari, our managing editor, who's joining us on this conversation. Let's also say good evening to Charu Pragya, spokesperson for the BJP, and Anshul Avajit, national spokesperson for the Congress party. 3 panelists on this conversation. Vinay, I want to start off with you. An issue that has gone on for now 3 months in the spotlight, in the national headlines constantly. But where we stand today, does it look like the government, let's begin with the government strategy before the opposition, the government strategy could have been better to handle it?
Yeah, so, let's set the context of why we are asking this question today, right? Why are we saying that there are many battlegrounds in this whole issue, and political battleground is one of them. Let's make no mistake about it. Politics is not about idealism. Politics is about strategic. Politics is about the relative. Decisions are taken with a strategy in mind, and decisions are always relative in nature. Two different situations might, similar situation might lead to very different solutions or tactics by the government. So it's always relative, and it's always tactical, and it's always strategic. Which is where this context becomes relevant in terms of what the government did. Of course, we also will talk about what the opposition is doing. And that's that's a bit of a mystery for me, because look at the situation in which the current narrative should have been. And despite all that the opposition may say, here are the facts. India is probably now one of the only countries in the world that is showing a dramatic fall in its COVID numbers. It's a great, good, happy, positive development after a very hard year of distress. It's a good sign, and it allows you hope to look at the next year with much better outlook than otherwise you would have imagined if we were in a second pandemic wave like it's happening in some parts of Europe. Today's data of vaccination numbers suggest that India is now the fastest country to hit the 3 million mark, despite hesitancy. Now, some of it could be because of the demographic nature of our population, but the fact is that if you objectively compare with how vaccination is happening in Europe, they are still wrangling over small little issues with the manufacturers, while we seem to have started at least the process fairly well, despite the hesitancy. India has carried out a very effective vaccine diplomacy. And again, I'm saying it is effective because, like it or not, it does play a part in making India look like a more mature democracy, which is willing to share something that is in short supply and something that everybody in the world wants to friends and to neighbors and to other countries who are in desperate need. It's created a good amount of buzz, and it's given some bit of international profile to India. Yeah. And with due apologies to Anshul, we have just had a budget 3 days ago that arguably most people believe is fairly decent. Yeah. The markets have responded positively to it. The industry seems to be happy with it. And most economists believe that now it's really a question of implementing it. Of course, it's a statement of intent like all budgets are. But now if the implementation is fine, it's a fairly decent budget that should give us what one people looking like. This is what the general narrative should have been.
Yes.
But please see what has happened since 26 January. On 26 January, the farmers were on the back foot. The mood of the nation was that here is a situation where the farmers have kind of shot themselves in the foot, whether it was a section or somebody else, but the visuals and the images were not very pleasing.
Yeah.
But then came three very strange strategic maneuvers, which now have completely changed the narrative and have put the government on the back foot. You had the very unusual scenario where a UP government decided to do what they thought was a crackdown, and you had this heavy artillery being moved in. You had notices being sent across, which surprises me because they probably did not understand or realize the importance of the biradri that exists in Western UP and the symbiotic relationship that Western UP has with even Haryana, where both sides culturally enjoy a very strong biradri system. You had a shrewd Rakesh Tikait who used emotion very effectively and ensured that that biradri system rallied around him, and actually, in effect, instead of the agitation petering out because of disappointment with the violence, it actually got strengthened. And then the visual imagery of spikes and barriers and concertina wires and almost like a warfront deployment created a very different narrative. And then you had this international concerted campaign, which I completely disagree and dislike. I don't think Rihanna or any other international star has any business talking about us because they know as much about our problem as probably we know about their personal lives. I couldn't care less about Rihanna, to be honest. But then our government chose to respond to that. The MEA responded. It was very unusual. MEA usually doesn't respond to an individual tweet. For me, Rihanna is just a pop star. She's no authority, she's no government, and frankly, we could have just ignored it. But we did that, and that has created a storm altogether. So now you have a situation where the government is battling perception, even when they should have been actually celebrating a lot of good things that seem to have happened over the last 10 days, and which is what the narrative should have been. Aside of the fact that the real narrative should have been to talk to the farmers and take this whole law forward.
Which is still on pause mode.
Which is still on pause mode.
So all the noise that's getting created across the world right now, at the heart of it are the farmers, and nobody's talking to the farmers. They're currently camping in fortified protest sites, barricaded from all corners with layers and layers of barriers and concertina wires, with the roads dug in and concrete blocks all around. Charu Pragya, your response to that?
Tanvi, if the farmers were interested in talking, if they wanted to resolve this, more importantly, the farm leaders, if they were interested in resolving this, they would have taken up the offer which is being given to them by the government repeatedly. Our Prime Minister, with folded hands, has spoken to the farmers. He has said that the rollout of the farm laws will wait for 1.5 years, and meanwhile, we can form a committee, we can iron out all the loopholes, and we can discuss things in an amicable manner. Why is that offer not being taken up by these so-called leaders? It just reeks of foul play. It reeks of people who are looking to further their personal agenda, their personal politics, and they're not looking out to increase the farmers' income or help them grow in any manner whatsoever. And we've seen that. What happened on 26th was shameful, whichever way you look at it, and I can't see anyone defending it. If anyone defends it, then it's even worse than what happened on the 26th of January with the eyes of the entire world on India. On a day when we were celebrating our constitution, law was taken in the hands of these so-called protesters who caused a riot-like situation in our capital. We cannot take that too lightly. And moving on from there, what are we seeing? Now when Parliament is in session, we are trying to move on from there. When we want to have an amicable discussion in Parliament again, there is ruckus being created. Does that show a group of opposition leaders who are interested in leading India forward, or does that show a group of opposition leaders who only want to cause mayhem wherever they go?
What does that show, Anshul Avijit? Opposition leaders only want to cause mayhem or take the conversation forward constructively? You all have waited for a parliament session for many months now, considering that we didn't hold the last one. Shouldn't we be using it more constructively?
Tanvi, it's very, very unfortunate that my very honorable counterpart in the BJP has used the word ruckus to describe what went on in the parliament, which was a legitimate form of parliamentary protest. We know the background, Vinay very eloquently said the background, and I have a very even-handed and balanced response to what he said, which is I partly agree with him and I partly don't. I think that, well, as far as the budget is concerned, it was a completely anti-poor budget. First of all, many of the things that could have happened in the budget, which was transfer money to the poor, didn't happen in the budget, and the farm was not mentioned, the MSP was not mentioned, and none of the things that we had expected from the budget actually were realized. But this is not about the budget. Where I agree with Vinay is about the highly infantilized response to the MEA on this entire controversy regarding the farmers, which has gone international now, which is international now, which is Rihanna's tweet and Greta's tweet as well, which is that they said that who are they to comment on India when they don't know anything about the subject matter. Well, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Do they not understand the way Twitter works? I know you had an elaborate discussion on Twitter and how it works and how it multiplies and amplifies just before in the previous section, but I just want to add 2 points. Do they not know how social media platforms world over work, how instantaneous their reactions are? Do they not understand the discipline that requires in Twitter? Do they want people to have double PhDs before they react to any topic? And the deepest of all ironies is that the government is accusing people from outside of not knowing enough and then commenting on the Indian situation when they have people in the government who are completely incapable of handling this economy, and therefore it's going completely downhill. So therefore I disagree with Vinay there. The economy is going downhill. The budget was anti-poor. None of the what should have been done has been done. And at the moment, the other thing that the MEA has done, and we must comment on that because it's rather laughable, is the other hashtag that the MEA has brought about, which is India Together. For 7 years, this government has done nothing but create divide, create social divisions, create dialectics, create binaries, pitted farmers against anti-farmers, pitted farmers against Khalistanis, or calling them all kinds of names, the rich against poor. And now they have the nerve to say that India Together. So I think the background and the context of this is very important. I think the word that you use, battleground, is very, very instructive because although it's a sensationalist metaphor, because of the barricades we are seeing, the nails on the roads we are seeing, it seems that the government is at war with its own people. And in that way, they're mimicking their arch rival, China, which is constantly at war with its people.
So let me ask you this, Anshul.
Colonize its own territory.
Yes, what some of those visuals that we do see at the border sites, are quite impactful, whatever the intent of the messaging there be. But battlegrounds on Twitter are horrifying in a completely different sense, but can leave a bad impact on people's minds as well. But let me ask you this. Don't you believe that your party is giving way too much credence to the noise being generated? Shouldn't the job of the opposition simply be to sit and discuss the laws rather than adding fuel to the fire and giving credence to what Greta Thunberg or Rihanna or anybody else has to say?
It was the MEA that drew first blood. What was the MEA's disproportionate reaction to what has been said outside? Of course, they're legitimate comments. If you have images about barricades, about farmers' distress being beamed all across the world, people will obviously comment on it. You don't require a profound knowledge of any subject to comment on Twitter. I mean, we all know, we probably all have Twitter accounts. Do we have double PhDs on the things we comment on? I have actually one PhD, but I don't have a double one. I mean, we comment on a number of things without having that much of in-depth knowledge. You know how this works. I mean, it's absurd to suggest, and highly puerile to suggest that you can't comment or should not comment. Now, That's another point altogether.
No. So I want to pick that point up because that's the contrary to what you said is what Vinay believes in, that people who don't know enough about these issues, whether they're in our country or outside the country, shouldn't be talking about it. Vinay, you said that, how do we know whether Rihanna or Greta did read up about the farm laws or the protests enough to understand and then take a view? But you've just made this entire issue as if you really care about these farmers. Anshul's argument is, well, you don't need to know all the details and have a PhD in it, but just enough to know you feel for what you see and you want to talk about it. Just like Irfan Pathan tweeted saying, well, we all commented on what was happening in US when the George Floyd incident took place.
That's right. Look, there are two kinds of quote-unquote celebrities that currently exist across the world. And I'm using the word quote-unquote because it's not that simple. There is one who are frankly a rent-a-quote brigade, who anyone can actually use to say anything in their favor or to oppose something. There are enough rent-a-quote celebrities that exist today across the world, not just here. And there are the other types who are pretenders, who want to be parts, who want to be part of a slightly more quote-unquote intellectual argument.
Correct.
I'm not saying that all celebrities are like that. Of course, there are some who may be very erudite and articulate and maybe even knowledgeable and have a legitimate right. And as citizens, everybody has right. But when you have a situation where it very obviously looks like a concerted campaign.
Yes.
My only slight disagreement with the response is that for me, Rihanna is a pop star. For me, Mia Khalifa is an adult film star. For me, Greta Thunberg is an activist. You end up dignifying that person's position or authority on a subject by responding to it from a very authoritative. I mean, I hold the MEA in a very high esteem. I think one of our, MEA is a very fine ministry. They have great sense of balance. They respond very well, and they displayed that all through the many crises that India has faced. But then you end up dignifying that, and I don't think the pop stars or any other person who deserved that kind of dignity from us. For us, this was noise. It should have been treated as noise. They had every right to. It's a free world for them. I mean, they can say whatever they wanted to. We should have just let it be. Unfortunately, by responding to that, it created a parallel storm, and now you have a situation where there will be a perception that in case you have a situation where a section of the population is in disagreement with their own government, there are no democratic ways of debating it with the government, because that's not the image that any Indian government official would actually want.
Yeah.
Because now you've created such a hardline position on it that it sends a message that I cannot hold a democratic discussion with the government in case I disagree with it. And that's not something that is required.
Yes, because those who are now taking contrarian views, whether it's Taapsee Pannu or Irfan Pathan, are also similarly facing, backlash or attacks from now their own people, Indians. So it's not just about taking on, people from outside who may or may not know. But because this has come up way too many times, and I am also curious, Charu Pragya, what was the merit that your party or our government saw in responding to these people? As the Ministry of External Affairs, was that required? We could have just left it to our celebrities who frankly were doing a fine job of putting these celebs in their place.
Sometimes when a conversation is as negative as that, as derogatory as that, and as much led by propaganda as that, I think it's best to nip it in the bud, and that's exactly what the MEA tried to do, in my opinion. Later on, we saw childishly Greta Thunberg post that toolkit, and it was deleted later, which goes on to show that she did it by mistake probably. But when you look at the snapshots of that toolkit now, it just shows how well planned everything was. It just goes on to show how deep this propaganda goes, and how much more was planned, God knows. What more will come in the future, God knows. But it does us well as citizens to be aware that when opinion tweets like this crop up from sections who are disagreeing with the way things are being handled, it's best to be nipped in the bud. Another thing I would like to point out now is that many people said that they were talking about human rights. Many people made this into a human rights issue, and they said that it's not necessary to know about the farm laws before tweeting about them, because frankly, if you asked Rihanna what are the farm laws in her own country, she wouldn't know them. And if Greta Thunberg knew so much about what the farm laws are talking about, being an environmentalist, she wouldn't be supporting a lot of the stands the farmers are asking for and taking right now. So without in-depth knowledge, if all you're focusing on is human rights, then what about the human rights of the villages which are being stopped from regular use by these protesters? What about
No. All of that is an argument you would like to have with Rihanna and Greta Thunberg, but they are not important enough for our story. Our story is our villagers and our farmers, not what these guys believe.
Fell down, Tanvi. What about that? Internet was cut off when those mobile towers were also fell down. So all that does not come into account for these so-called activists who now have a problem with human rights being affected.
Actually, most of these people are extremely vocal about issues even in their own country. And the toolkit that you're referring to, while the older one was deleted and there was much outrage about what it had, there is still a toolkit, a document on her Twitter handle, and it still shows of how she and whoever created that toolkit want to create noise and campaign, because that's how, Charu Pragya, campaigns are actually planned. I'm sure your party's IT cell knows it as well as Congress party's IT cell does. Vinay, you wanted to make a point?
I'll tell you, there is only one point where I have a slight disagreement with Charu, which is this. I absolutely agree with her that if you ask Rihanna or you ask Greta Thunberg or you ask Mia Khalifa, they would have absolutely no clue. Probably some of them may not be able to even place Punjab or Western UP on a map. I'm quite sure of that.
Yeah.
But you see, here's where the problem is. Our attack on them, especially coming from official sources, doesn't dent anything for them because they are purely there for their follower count. And look, let's be honest, everybody here now knows, especially Charu would 100% know, that a majority of the things on social media, especially Twitter, are planned events. People do it as a strategy. There are strategies played by all. So even corporate trending hashtags are planned events, right? They are commercial exercises. Everybody knows that. It was obviously planned. There's no doubt about it. It's planned, written all over it. There is no doubt about that. My problem is that our making a noise against Rihanna is not going to dent anything to her because she's in her own country living in her own bubble. And that bubble will continue for her. And whatever her bubble is, she earlier had Donald Trump as a bubble, now she'll have something else as a bubble. She'll find another cause somewhere in Africa. God knows what she will do.
And celebrities often tweet.
Yes,
Leonardo DiCaprio always keeps tweeting about our environmental issues.
But when you have one of the biggest democracies in the world officially responding to that, you end up somewhere enhancing that person's ability to create mischief.
Rather than nipping it in the bud.
Rather than nipping it in the bud. Why did we have to enhance her ability to be a mischief monger globally by getting governments to react? I mean, why should governments react to Rihanna? We shouldn't. Let her do whatever. I mean, our Akshay Kumar would have been good enough for Rihanna. Why did we need, any part of the government to respond to her?
Yes, absolutely. So here is the other aspect. Now let's talk about the opposition strategy here, Vinay. And before I go to our panelists, in your view, how they've handled, whether it's the march, going to the protest sites, because in the first few months, very successfully, the farmers managed to keep politicians away from their protests, which is why, we believe that they successfully went on for so long. Is it now required to try and hijack or get your, 15 seconds from there?
Yes, and again, I'm very sure Anshul is not going to like some of what I'm going to say, and it's not about the Congress. I'm talking about the opposition, which is this. Look, one of the big successes of the farmers' movement in the first 3 months or so was that it was largely apolitical, and they had ensured that the political parties had stayed away physically, visibly, and of course in other things as well. Maybe there was support, of course, conceptually, but at least they were not there actively participating with them. But my big concern now is that a lot of the opposition has become, if I can borrow a term from horticulture or botany, the climbers and the creepers of politics. Some of them have now decided to use this agitation to resurrect their own political relevance. And I don't think that's a very smart thing to do, because what it's now doing, it's giving this whole genuine legitimate issue that the farmers have a very political color. And nothing derails in India more than something that requires a political color, because it has also made the BJP hardline its position and the government hardline position, because they believe there is an opposition game here. And that doesn't solve the one constituency that I guess all of them have committed to serve, which is the farmers. Everybody spouts great homilies about the farmers, that they are the ones who really matter in this country and we should look out for them. But this won't happen, because now you have a hardline position by the government where they are not, there is a slight amount of vilification that's on. But the politicization of it is not going to help that either. We really need to lower this temperature and get into a substantive talk and come out with laws which actually serve better the only constituency that should matter, and that is the farmers.
Anshul, respond to that, the fact that some amount of what your party and other political parties are doing and trying to march to the protest sites and meet the farmers and issue statements after statement, in many ways gives BJP the opportunity to say, see, we always told you, this is political.
Again, I mean, I completely disagree with Vinay, and actually I'm quite surprised I'm disagreeing with him so much in one show. He is a very rational thinker. But, the point I disagree with Vinay is on the point of politicization. Now, it's almost as if a movement or if anything, any topic gets politicized, it's almost as if the movement itself gets sullied. I mean, that is such, I hate to use the word, it's such a puerile reaction to anything which is political. I mean, the very basis of our country is political. Universal adult franchise is political. The executive is political. The legislature is political. We elect the legislature. As soon as we become 18, we become political animals. We are electing representatives to the parliament who are going to enact these laws. Everything about this country is political, should be, and necessarily should be political. I will make it so if it isn't. I don't mean as the sweeping statement, but you get my point.
Yes.
Here, what is important, what is enacted by law, and laws are very important because our country is run through the constitution, that's how democracy works, is political. And from the very first moment, all opposition parties said that this is politically wrong because it was passed through the process in the Rajya Sabha, which makes it quite illegitimate, through a process which was completely unparliamentary. So actually, this is an anti-political law. It's the other way around. We are trying to make it political. So I would argue precisely the opposite of what Vinay has argued. This law is illegitimate because there was no due political process that was followed in passing it. It was bulldozed through the Rajya Sabha.
So if I may just come in here, which is fine, and I don't think we're saying that don't debate it in the parliament or don't question the government in the parliament, or if you truly believe that the way that the laws were passed, don't take it to the next step and protest about the way the laws were passed, or go to the Supreme Court and appeal against the way the laws were passed. The question here is, Anshul, why try and appropriate what has been separately an apolitical movement, the movement by the farmers, because then you endanger that movement and you give the government a chance to say this is all political, fueled by the opposition.
First of all, there was never any appropriation of that movement. From the very instant when the bill was hurriedly passed through the Rajya Sabha, we objected to it. A number of press sessions were held in which we objected to the bill. When the farmers' movement came out, we didn't go there. I mean, how many pictures do you have of Congress leaders actually there at the border? That's not true at all. We lent our support. We felt the same way. You know, whenever a movement goes in this country, and this happened during the freedom movement also, there were a number of vested interests that came together. We were fighting for the same cause in different ways. Sometimes their trajectories intersected, sometimes they didn't. That's how a movement works. Now, to say that it was to sully it, to demean it by saying it's political, I don't think it doesn't hold any credence, I would think. Because I'm completely of the opposite view, and rather, as I've said before, the bill itself is anti-political. It's not born out of a democratic process, which we value so highly. It's not born out of a parliamentary process, which was completely violated in this bill, and therefore makes it illegitimate, and therefore it should go. And there should be another bill, and it should be through a select committee, and there should be a consultative process in which it is made political again, and therefore consulted, debated, and another law passed with consensus, because consensus is the basis of democracy.
Vinay, you disagree? I want to get Charu to react as well.
No.
Okay, let Charu respond to the allegation, of course, about the way the farm laws have been brought in.
I find it very funny how my friend from the Congress has such a twisted view on how this legislation was passed. And it's also ironic to note that their own party leader, Rahul Gandhi ji, was not even there to debate it on that particular day. And suddenly, one fine day, he wakes up to a protest which is raging in the country, decides to walk up to the farmers or walk up to the Rashtrapati Bhavan and help the farmers. And the farmers stand up and say, stay out of this. Then he turns up with some X number of signatures, which I have my doubts about. But again, the farmers tell him, stay out of this. So actually, whatever protest was going on and whatever conversation these protesters had with the government was going fine till the political parties jumped in. Yes, things are a political process in our country, but a political process cannot be misused for your personal gain. It cannot be misused for giving you your 15 seconds of fame and relevance, which you seem to have lost in the politics of this country. If you're losing people's pulse, then you need to find it in a better way. You need to find a cause, not jump onto other people's bandwagon and pretend it was yours all along. That is what hurts me, and I think the opposition needs to play a more responsible role. What has happened with this entire protest and the direction it has taken, I am sorry, your interference has harmed everything, from the protesters to the sentiment of the farmers, to the way everything is being looked at by the international community, the incident which happened on the 26th of January right here in our capital. So everything that has happened since you jumped onto this bandwagon is negative. So I do not agree with you.
How has it harmed these issues?
I think it's harmed the issues, Tanvi, because there was a group of people which wanted to support the farmers, thinking that their wants and needs are legitimate and we need to hear them out. The government has been hearing them out, and you will notice that every single legit demand which was put forth by the farmers has been accepted by the government. The farm laws are at a pause. 1.5 years is long enough to debate everything. 1.5 years is long enough to discuss everything in a committee. And these people don't want to do that. Why is that? Why this stubbornness? The harm that political
No, I get the point. But that is the farmers' decision also. I was trying to understand how you attributed that to the opposition or made it their fault.
That's because, like I said, once the opposition started interfering to such a large extent, once it has become about photo ops, once it has become about who's supporting the leaders which are supporting the protest, common people have moved away from the protest. They want to say that this is politically driven. One political party is trying to build an agenda out of it. Like Aam Aadmi Party today, we are withdrawing the DTC buses. The way things have been handled in Punjab, elections are coming soon in Uttar Pradesh. So everything has been politicized in a very negative manner. Where is the basic cause that you're fighting for?
So,
why not help farmers advance? Any new thing which is introduced, any new system which is introduced, it takes time for it to find comfort in people.
Just to clarify one small thing, and just to clarify to Charu as well. Look, at no stage did I mean in terms of the merit. My argument, that's why I started off my discussion on politics by saying that in politics, it's all about strategy, it's all relative. The India Against Corruption movement was also apolitical. It got hijacked by a political party. That's neither new nor unique. It'll always happen. Whichever party believes it can derive strategic advantage of a situation, they will do it. When JP started a movement, it was apolitical. And Anshul knows it because he comes from that state. That was supposed to be an apolitical movement. Then it became a much larger political movement where they wanted to share power. Indian history is replete with examples where apolitical movements have been hijacked by parties and used for the advantage. I don't quarrel with that. That's politics. Politics is about power. My disagreement is only on this, that you can't fault the opposition for trying to hijack. My only point for Anshul was that from a strategic point of view, this has not paid or may not pay the dividend that they expect, because currently you have a strange situation where you are actually ending up making the other side more hardline, and the only side that is getting squeezed out of all this
are the farmers. Okay, completely out of time, but thank you to all three of you for joining us and sharing your views on this. Well, one thing is for sure, viewers. Charu Pragya says that the government offered 1.5 years. In my own rough math, that's roughly around the time the laws would have remained in suspension any which ways, because the Supreme Court suspended these laws pending a committee that needs to meet all stakeholders. The Supreme Court appointed panel needs to meet farmers from all parts of our country, various farmer groups. It needs to meet government representatives, it needs to meet traders, everybody who has a stake in this, then make a set of recommendations, give it to the Supreme Court. A series of hearings would take place before the Supreme Court could come to any decision. So roughly that would probably have come to this much amount of time, 1.5 years for the laws to be suspended any which ways. It's up to the government and the farmers. One of them needs to make the first move. What happens in the parliament, we will keep you posted, which is where legitimately the opposition should be asking the government a few questions on its strategy and of course on the farm laws. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation.